What up, Shammy? Let me get my compressor running. I have a plan for these mandrakes. It might involve some saran wrap because I gotta block some stuff, but we'll see what happens. Hang on. All right, hopefully we're good to go. So, overview. The core idea I think we have here is we're gonna gray primer. I do really like gray primer. Hopefully, I don't know if I have enough white. This might actually be a problem. I keep forgetting to grab more. We might do some Liquitex white ink as OSL stuff. Oh, I think I have more. Not much. This is my old one. Worst case scenario, we make do. I do have white high flow, and hopefully that helps. What up, Sprue? I mean, they'll have a place in Kill Team. Technically, when they're releasing, they should last 3 years, which means they're gonna outlast Legionary most likely. The question is whether or not their full release rules drop and actually give us more. If not, then I don't know. Like if what they are right now is just what they are and that's it, and they're just like, yep, that's it. Here you go. You guys wanted Plague Marines, you get the push fits, and it's like, oh. There's not much here. It's gonna not feel that great, and people probably won't want to use them that much. Again, I do feel like it's probably down to what their actual rules are gonna be. I honestly wouldn't mind an elite team of 5-inch movement. Hearthkin are 5, Necron are 5. I genuinely think there's a place for that. Get some flow improver in here just to do it. Boop, 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 boop. No, they're not getting their classic Feel No Pain. That's not happening. It's a universal change, man. Gellerpox have the new one. The Drakari, the Hand of the Archon, that's their version now too. Anyone that had a Feel No Pain has this version of Feel No Pain. Although, if I'm not mistaken, most of the team's Feel No Pains are to a minimum of 3. Maybe. I think they might be 2. Problem with Gray Primer, I don't know what I've hit so far. I have an idea for the basing too. Yeah, the new Feel No Pain is everyone's Feel No Pain. It's just what it is. It's trying to make it so that it's still like a thing that could happen that people have to plan for, but not in a way where it's massively game changing, which I get is what people like. They love hero moments in the game. And Kill Team provides hero moments, I think, more so than 40k really does. Like, 40k can, but, like, 40k's hero moments so far this season have been, my Rhino survived. And, like, the Rhino is the hero. And it's like, I don't know if that's what I want to point to and be like, yeah, hero moment. My troop transport did stuff. I think that's a very unhealthy thing for the tabletop. Because, like, you have things on the field like Magnus and the Lion and, like, all those heroes, Avatar, Arcane, stuff like that. They don't feel as heroic at scoring points as the Rhino. Meanwhile, I mean, Kill Team is just characters. It's just individuals. So you'll have moments where it's like, yo, my one Mandrake just went absolutely ham. He held his own on that side and made sure no one was able to move forward. Like, that stuff's pretty cool. But, like, you kind of want a bit better knowledge on, like, what could happen. And if anyone playing a Feel No Pain team has to think, I guess, would be the way to put it, that anything they do will be completely negated damage-wise. Like, if I have to play the game exclusively around the idea of, like, well, this will probably fail, I don't know how you play into that, right? And it makes it feel less competitive, which I think they're trying to find the balance between, like, fun and competitive. And straight up Feel No Pain, definitely not in the competitive bracket. It's more the fun bracket. So, I mean, that's why people don't like that it's kind of not what it was. Because, I mean, that means less fun. But then for the competitive community, it means a bit more strategy, a bit more depth, which is what they want. Because the current Feel No Pain, you can work around it. Just assume that if you do more than 3 damage, you're going to do 1 less on average. That's not that hard to deal with in terms of calculating in your head, because then it's like, oh, well, I just need a little bit more. And it's slightly less oppressive than just being like, oh, by the way, all the Death Guard have 20 wounds. Like, that's the alternative, is to just be like, Death Guard have 20 wounds. Each one of them is a Plague Hulk. Good luck. I mean, I want to play Death Guard, and I don't even want that. That sounds terrible. Because that is what the Feel No Pain kind of boils down to. It's just extra wounds, really, in certain situations. Hell yeah. I was worried about how numerous these guys were for painting purposes. But the reality is they're so small that it's probably not that big of a deal. I think as long as we get more Death Guard options, even a Poxwalker option, which would be great, because it would make them kind of like Warp Coven, where it's like, oh, you can take 2 Poxwalkers instead of 1 Death Guard. It's like, oh yeah, this is basically the Warp Coven build, just in a different direction. I think that could be good. So next up, we got to do... We're doing a mono-direction Zenithal. We kind of have to go back in with the white, too, which is kind of problematic. Although I might hand paint the white for the stage 2. Almost all of their weapons and elements are going to be glowing, because... I mean, Mandrakes, come on, why would they not? And then, like, a key element to them... I might actually... Okay, so this is going to be a weird blend of Zenithal painting, highlight layers through Zenithal, glowing effects, and then some contrast function. Because I think I want to paint their hair white, but then I have a blue speed paint that's like a really light blue. Like, it's almost like a shade. And then I could hit their hair, their white hair, with the blue shade. And then make their hair just look, like, really ethereal. The key thing here, though, is that I went out and I bought iridescent bronze. So for their flesh tone, what I am thinking is we're going to hit them with like a mid-teal, right? Like maybe Sybarite teal or something. And then we're going to try to leave the recesses. We're going to do like a top-down almost of iridescent brass. The iridescent brass stuff. Or iridescent bronze. That way their skin looks like bronze statues. Which is kind of what I was hoping for. But we're going to start from a place of dark blue. Maybe. We've still got a little bit of time to debate. It was either going to be dark blue or dark purple. I think blue would be best because if the teal is the undertone to the brass, it would all tie in, whereas the purple would feel too separate for what I'm aiming for. So we're going to mono-direction Zenith. It's not going to be an ambient Zenithal. Because there's a lot of different types of Zenithals when you airbrush. Or even dry brush. Because you can technically dry brush a Zenithal if you're, like, really careful. With, like, how much paint you apply. When, where, and why, and all that. You can do the ambient, which is just all over. But for these guys, I think the goal here is that I'm going to pick a single direction. Probably from the front, so kind of in the way that they're facing, not so much from behind them. Or maybe we do from behind them. What if we darken their front so it has that like effect of backlighting? That's not something that happens often, I think, in paint schemes. People choosing to make it so that the brightest part of the model isn't the front and the face. Instead, it's the back, which should ring light the front and the face, sort of, which could give it a little bit better of a feel. Is that like the back is brighter. Gotta wait for some of this to dry though. Some of these guys are still a little wet. We can get started on some of them though. This guy's completely dry, it looks like. I'm making a giant thing of slow cooker curry right now. I can smell the onions in my room. Oh my god. I'm so hungry. I want the curry. Oh, thank you. I'm trying to get out another video, and this is me kind of procrastinating on it because, like, I keep trying, and then my brain, like, starts to shut down while I'm doing it. It's like a little bit of burnout, but I gotta push through it at some point. But I figure, as long as instead of just sitting around watching TV to avoid it, I'm actually trying to get some projects done that I want to do, we might eventually get back to it, which could be good. We got a deathcore video coming up. Maybe a video going over co-op mode. All right, Shammy. Just some quick zenithal work. Doing some backlighting. This guy's still a little wet. I'm also trying to experiment with some ideas of like other types of videos I can put out, like overview on strategy, movement, target acquisition, stuff like that. But now that I've got this new setup here, I could start getting back into battle reports. Which could be good. And then I wouldn't mind getting to some tournaments at some point here. Death Guard model updates worked out really well. I like them. I just finished varnishing them today. No, yeah, I agree seeing the game in action really helps with description and proper overview of what you're seeing. The issue is, and a lot of people notice this, it's so much effort just to put out a battle report. Like, very commendable that Mountainside kept up with it, but like a lot of people who do battle reports that they try to put out, they don't really edit it that hard if they're gonna do it anymore. Because unedited is what they're like, oh, that's perfectly fine. People just want to see the game, that's great. But the problem is with unedited battle reports, that's like 3 hours, and there's like a lot of dead silence in it. Like, some of the battle reports I did with my friend, like, there were moments where, for about 20 minutes, he would be staring at the table trying to decide the best move, and it would just be, like, dead silence. We'd be sitting there, and, like, that's not good for YouTube. People do not like silence on YouTube. It is no bueno for people. But yeah, like, Bricky took over a battle report channel that had a ton of following, and then he was like, I got this, it's not that hard. And then I think, like, what, a year later, he closed it up. Because he was like, yeah, no, I'm losing money on this channel. Like, the amount of effort I'm putting in for, like, you know, like, just edits and getting people out here to play, like, yeah, this is not a tenable thing. But if I can find a way to do it fairly quickly, because that's the thing, man. YouTube is Hanna-Barbera. You gotta be quick. You gotta smash through. Just put videos out in bulk. Alright, we gotta pick. I think dark blue. I think we'll do dark blue. I'm pretty sure I have a dark blue. Honestly, we might actually do contrast. I might not do the high flow. Oh, it is hugely time consuming. Hugely time consuming. How much Highlander blue do I have? High Lord Blue. I think Cloudburst would actually be better. So I got the tokens for these guys. I think they'll be cool to play. If I can get locals to start getting in on, like, wanting to play, I think I might try them out. Found it. Cloudburst. So this is a very dark blue. We'll see if this works. I had issues. I normally have issues with speed paint through airbrush. People keep telling me it's good, but the few times I have run speed paints through an airbrush, they dry in the tip very quickly, which clogs it. And I just have issues with that. It's problematic. But we'll see. We'll see if that problem persists. Oh, good luck, man. I don't know if you saw the results in New York. Warp Coven took #1, but Hearthkin Salvagers were very close behind, and there was actually a lot of Jaeger representation, which was pretty cool. Weirdly, for the full list of players, there really wasn't a lot of different players. A lot of people were leaning into Salvagers, Warp Coven, Nemesis Claw, Angels of Death, which, I mean, I imagine most people will have like an Angels of Death in their back pocket for barely collecting. Yeah, no problem, Emperor. Thanks for swinging by. I almost don't need to care too much. It's mostly just the pants that I need to worry about, like the pants cloth. Yeah, see, it's already kind of... This is mostly just about getting the cloth tinged right, because there's a touch of blue in it that I really wanted. I always prefer, like, if someone's like, yeah, it's black leather, right? Like, and then they just paint it black. I'm always like, dude, Zenithal a little bit. Hit it with a super dark blue. It looks so much creamier. God, that looks so good. It's just a deep candy-like blue. I actually have an idea, though, too, with it. I almost picked up Jaegers. I almost did. The store near me was having a Halloween sale, and I've been thinking of grabbing Jaegers. The problem was, I was just like, I don't know how I'm gonna paint them, right? Like, I wanted a paint scheme in my head. That way I kind of had like an upfront, like, oh yeah, I know what to do situation. So I eventually came across one because I was like, well, what do we do? And then I thought like, oh, the old space like phantom concept that I had from a long time ago that I applied to some of my Rubric Marines. So the idea was I'm gonna make the armor look really dingy. Like the leather coats would be like burgundy leather, like a red leather almost, red purple leather. But then the suits, it would like have a lot of dirt on it, and the suits themselves would be white and teal. But then I would coat them in grime, like a Poxwalker shade, so much that it's dripping off of it, as well as potentially like Agrax or Sepia, right? At least that was the idea. I also had a bunch of like leftover skulls that I was gonna put on little push tacks and then have like floating skulls where their heads would be. And just paint those like super bright white and blue. Or even like magenta to white kind of deal. I was like, oh, alright, I got the plan, let's go. And then I went to my store and they didn't have them anymore. So we'll never know what those Jaegers will look like, because instead, I bought the more expensive Mandrakes. So I'm pretty sure before we get into the bronze skin tone concept, or the metallic bronze skin that we're gonna try to do, I think next stage is to figure out the glowing bits to block them off and then get them painted up so that I don't have to worry about too much. This is the same bluish black leather that I did for all of my cultists. It's just so good looking, man. I also use this for my Hearthkin salvagers. Like any of the rubber elements on my Hearthkin salvagers, I use this blue. I think a fantastic conversion for these would be to have like a bunch of pyramids and you just make them all pyramid heads. Just do like the butcher color frickin' thing for all of their waist skirting. I do kind of want to gradiate the skirting, though. We're going to try something. Try a little something. Such a deep blue color. It's so good. People don't know, man. The Leviathan blue / cloudburst blue meta of just super deep blue color. Alright, let's see if this actually works. The problem is a lot of the fluorescent colors are very transparent. But when applied through airbrush, they actually build nicely. So they can kind of become opaque. Because like even on dark surfaces like this, you can see that it becomes blue. I don't want it to be like omega bright blue. But I do kind of want to hit it with like a bit of a bottom shimmer around the bottom of their cloak. That way there's at least like a little bit of a gradiated buildup. Which, here, let me start zooming in for you guys now that we're past just the busy work stages. Yeah. And it all becomes unpurchasable anyway. Although I don't know about Shining Spears. I imagine Shining Spears will probably stay low. Unless, like, okay. So, the Games Workshop market, as you probably know, works based on meta shifts. So, like, who knows? Maybe the Codex drops and all of a sudden, like, all Bike Eldar are, like, the meta. Then, yeah, Shining Spears are just straight up just gone at that point. You're gonna need them. It was like that with MVBs, man. The moment people were like, yo, Mutalith Vortex Beasts, that's what makes Thousand Suns. They just became impossible to get your hands on. And it was the same thing. I mean, Eldar already went through that with, what was it? Night Spinners. Anything that had D-cannons for a while there. Surprised I haven't heard anything about, like, did walkers become, the war walkers, did they become rare to find as well? Because I know war walkers suddenly, like, someone brought up all of their abilities and was like, why is no one running these? And then everyone went, oh my god, why are we not running these? And then I've been seeing them in like every Eldar list. It's just Warwalkers. Warwalkers. They're hard as hell to bring down. They carry good guns. They don't cost a lot. They have whatever, I think Scout as a maneuver, which is massively useful. At least enough to make everyone be like, yep, we need Warwalkers. Of course, these guys supposedly are like the mechanics units for Drakari. Thankfully, there's not a lot of Drakari players locally, so not hard to get. Oh yeah, you've got 10 editions floating around your head. I've got Kill Team, AOS, 40k. I've been looking... Oh, Underworlds. I've been looking into... Frickin'... Warcry. Like, I feel like for Kill Team I could do it. Because Kill Team's rules, those are what I came in on. Those are what I've really been pushing. So, like, I can kind of pull those out of the hat at any point, really. Hell yeah. I might even rim light these with a Baharoth blue or something. Just go around the bottom edge. Boom. Alright. We're gonna block in the lighting effects. That way I can start working on that. So that's gonna be more of like a hand-painty thing. And then I think I have an idea for basing. I started looking at those toxic Death Guard that I saw online, and I'm still trying to figure out how the bases work. I'm pretty sure it is some kind of clear medium that they used on the basing. And I have a kind of like a fake resin pour medium that's supposed to dry clear. And I've been thinking about how it works. It's a suspended medium. So I am thinking, and I kind of want to test it here, that if I mix that medium with pigment, like actual like mica powder pigments, and then kind of with like a needle or a paperclip manually push the chemical around on the surface of the base, it should push and pull the pigment. But it shouldn't like blend the pigment, because mica powder pigment is fairly big in pigment size, so it should still appear as chunks on their base, and I think that's maybe something we want to try to do here. That way it looks like there's a swirling, almost like galaxy of pigment beneath their feet. Happy spooky season. I mean, I'm not really doing any spooky parties or anything. I'm just hanging out, probably. Although it's Halloween Thursday, because my brother was like, hey, let's do all-you-can-eat wings. And now I'm thinking, maybe that's a dumb idea. Because if we go do it Thursday, it's a college town near here. Which means I'm pretty sure the place is going to be packed. Although the other place that he was thinking of, I think might be Saturday. I don't know. And that one's not in the college town, so it could be a lot better. Yeah, Halloween's Thursday. It better not be that one that he's thinking. Let me pull this glove off for now. We'll reapply it later. Alright, so we need to block off all energy components. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was probably thinking the other place to go to. Just because that would be Saturday, I think he said. So there's no way we're doing that one on Thursday. So this is mostly about blocking so that I can hit it with airbrush fluorescence, which I am probably going to go get some saran wrap to try to help out, because I need the glowy fluorescence to not hit the models as much. Question is, what glow do we want? I'm thinking pink to magenta. Maybe like a purple to magenta or something. What's up, PhD? What kind of scary games you play? You go with the hard dread kind of scary games, or you just go with like jump scare games? Just found out Vox Machina got another season without me knowing about it. Like, it's already out. It apparently dropped this month, like earlier on. So now I gotta watch that at some point. I enjoy horror games when they're kind of done in the more dread direction. Having horror games that are just about, oh, it jumped out at you. And you're like, man, that was crazy. And then it's like, yeah, that was pretty crazy. Oh, it jumped out at you again. You're like, all right. Like, I kind of lose interest after the 4th or 5th jump scare. And it's like, all right, yep. Cool. And if that's it, if that's like the limit of your power, guess let me just beat this game real quick and then go do something else. always prefer the dread approach. Doesn't happen often. Sometimes they supplement with jump scares. Like, I do really like the dread approach of a Song of Horror. That game is an ideal, in my opinion, for like what horror games could be. But there's an element, like, okay, so it's what horror games could be, but prefaced. I don't think enough people in the world would want these to be the horror games. Like, they prefer the horror games to be like a little bit almost more training wheelsy. Like, they like the idea of being like a little scared or like getting a little bit of like, oh, that was crazy kind of moment. But they don't like genuinely feeling like stuff's about to go very wrong. Right? Like, they don't really want crazy stuff to happen necessarily. So like Song of Horror, one of the key elements in it is that the characters you're playing, if they die, the whole point is that it's not like, oh, let me load the save and start again. If they die, they're dead. There's like a handful of characters you can get through the level with, and they all have kind of like unique ways of coping with the fear that's going on, like the things that are happening. Like, one of them will drink and it'll lower his kind of like panic state. But if they die, they die. And the final level of the game involves some of the people from the story from all the other chapters. So if those people are dead, they're not going to be there for the final chapter. So in that game, there's a level of dread of having to deal with what's going on and then being extremely fearful about actions you take. Because if you're not paying attention, certain actions you take in the game can get you killed. Like, there's actually things that occur in the game that are straight up just like, oh, you opened the door because you heard the family crying. Well, your character's dead. New character. And, like, that game's hit me harder than almost any horror game I've ever played. Just because of that. Like, there's actual stakes when trying to play through the game of, oh, I really don't want to lose my character. Because it'll make the game harder. This is probably going to be one of the hardest things to airbrush. Trying to think of how we're gonna do this. Yeah, their model design is kind of very close to what it was before. I mean, I get it. This is very Mandrake-ish in visual aesthetic, so it's like, alright. Everyone always wishes the models they're seeing, though, could have been at least a little better. Especially for things like the Scorpions, where the Scorpions are basically like 3 poses, and that's it. Everyone's like, why did they do this? They waited all this time to redo the Scorpion models to give us 3 total poses? What? We might actually paint this all one color first from the fluorescent line and then airbrush specific spots on it, I think. That might be the way to go with this setup. Because I've got fluorescent red, but you have to brush on fluorescent red. Because fluorescent red has a specific type of mineral in it that is very, to my understanding, carcinogenic. So you do not want to airbrush it. That's why there's no high flow fluorescent red. It's just, it doesn't work. So we can always, we can even debate just going over all of it with fluorescent red. Although I think I want that cape to be fluorescent red, because I want it to kind of stand out from everything else. What's up, Burden? Does anyone have a show that they watch that they know is like bad, right? Like they know the show's bad. It's just not a good show. But they still just can't seem to not want to watch it for some reason. Like they just love the train wreck of it, I guess. One of those like it's so bad it's good situations. Because like I've been watching, there's this old show, I think it was on CW at one point, but now it's on Amazon Prime. It's called Grimm. And I remember starting to watch it, and it had kind of a cool premise. I was like, oh, this is sweet. And then it just kept going. And it didn't, like, improve on things. There's a kind of writing you'll see in TV shows that gets me every time. Like, because I look at it and I'm like, oh, why would they do that? And it's like they write things into the story without actually having a goal in mind with those things. Like, they'll just create lore and then just be like, yep. And everyone's like, all right, so what's that gonna happen? When's that? When do we do that? And they're like, well, what does it do? I don't know. They're like, oh no. It's like they write themselves into corners. And they're just like, all right, let's create intrigue with nothing behind it. And then never talk about it again. I am using golden so flat white because my Pro Acryl is basically empty. And rather than buying more, I've been using a bit of so flat white because so flat white does about the same thing. I would say Pro Acryl applies better, but Pro Acryl also does have like a slight shine to it, whereas the so flat paints that Golden has right now are really, really good at going on in like a limited number of coats, and then when it dries, there's just no glare at all. There's just zero gloss, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I watched season 1 of From, and I was like, this is a lot of stuff that could be cool, but I'm pretty sure this is going to write itself into a corner. They're going to make some stuff up, and then, like, it's not going to go anywhere. Like, I immediately felt that. It felt like Lost and, like, Grimm and all that. It was very clear that the people who made it were just like, hopefully this works. Set of rules, no goal in mind. Yeah, Grimm was kind of cool at the beginning. But then, like, the gimmick just became the show. The whole prospect of the main character is part of a bloodline that's basically the Grimms. So they can see, like, people who are hiding in plain sight, but, like, they're from groups of sort of, like, pseudo-anamorphic creatures. Most of our, like, fairy tales and stuff were written about them, like Big Bad Wolf type stuff. But he's also a cop, so, like, he's kind of like the Grimm cop rather than the Grimm that just goes around killing these things. Which was kind of cool, because at first it was like, oh, challenging norms. You know, going against, like, heritage and history and trying to establish something new and better. Good themes, good themes. But, like, you're 4 seasons in, and the same thing is happening every episode of just, like, oh, they find out the criminal's one of these beings. He tells them he's a Grimm. Everyone freaks out for like 10 seconds. Then they carry on. You're like, all right, cool. And then at some point they just like hard jump the shark. Like there's like dimensional travel. Ugh, so weird. Just really got out of hand. Speaking of which, I'm on, I think, the last season of it for the 3rd time. I put it on my side monitor and I just get work done while that's just going. It's just the character growth doesn't feel right. Like, they will shatter character growth just to try to make a story happen. Like, characters that were just consistently, like, surprising you, and it's like, oh, it's the big heel turn moment, right? Like, oh, that's really cool. And then, like, a season comes, and they're just like, well, we need the villain again, so let's just, let's unwrite everything that just happened in this person's mind and journey. And then we'll just, you know, make them the villain. And it's like, oh my god. Why? Oh, another good one. So everyone knows the Total Recall, or at least a lot of people know. I don't know your ages in chat, but a lot of people know the Total Recall movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. The whole concept of, like, Mars revolution and him trying to, like, join it, but he was actually, like, a double agent the whole time kind of deal. But then because of what he did, he decided he'd be a triple agent, and he actually likes the Resistance. And wishes to really help them. There's a Canadian TV station that I somehow got the rights to Total Recall as, like, a title. And decided that they would do a sci-fi detective noir story on Earth in the same, like, era. They just called it Total Recall, just like the movie, and then it wasn't at all, like, connected with the movie. Like, it was so weird, but kind of awesome, because that's how they did that. They were like, it's a good setting, but we don't really want to do the whole Martian mining workers thing. We'd rather do our own thing. So they did it based on, like, AI becoming, you know, sentient people, basically. It was a cool storyline. Probably my favorite thing, though, about Grimm was they had a lot of guest stars that I think they tried to make reoccurring characters, but then just opted out, I guess. Like, they did actually get some kind of big Hollywood names. And it was great, because their scenes were all, like, really... I guess you could... Compared to, like, what the rest of the show was, all their scenes were very overacted. Because it did seem like, oh, they really want this role, because they don't really got much else going on for them right now. But it just didn't fit. Like, it's so weird watching them do their lines with, like, extreme levels of overacting. Meanwhile, the cast and crew that's actually on the show is just, you know, maintaining their energy. I think we might tell a little bit of a story with this squad. Because this guy has one of his swords on his belt. All the swords that are in their hands are going to be glowing. But on the belt, I might actually make that obsidian. Which is like a silver, and then I do chaos black over top of it. That's like a little watered down. So it feels like obsidian. Like it's just really dark. But with like a shine coming up from underneath of it. That way it kind of feels like, oh, when it's in their hands. And they choose to wield their weapons. So Mandrakes are definitely, I feel like, a one-box team. Because there's only like 4 specialists. And there's no alternate loadouts for anyone. The leader doesn't get alternate loadouts. Like, no one gets an alternate loadout. But I think there's, what, 9 of them on the field or something? So you get a lot of, like, oddity. Because it's mostly warriors. I haven't even really looked at their stats that much. Spooky kill team going well so far. We got their the black leather leg kilt skirt things done, or at least started. We got to do like the little details on them, I think. Pick some like strap colors and stuff, maybe reds. Might do some edge highlighting around the bottom with some Baharoth blue. Right now, we're blocking in energy so that I can go back in with my airbrush here in a second. Just got to get some saran wrap. Try to close off parts of them. Yeah, it's pretty spoopy. Pretty spoopy. I think I made an okay choice with these guys. These guys are supposedly a 3-year team. I might lean into just learning how to play them explicitly. Because I do like sneaky shenanigans teams. And these guys are kind of it, right? Like, they're the big ones. They're the ones that can just go into shadows, pop out. Oh. I feel like their general rules too might be really good into like elites and stuff. I need to look it up. Because these guys wreck people's armor saves, man. Like, you do not get armor saves properly against their ranged attacks. Most things in the game have to roll either a 2 or a 1 for armor saves, which means like their percentages, I mean the crit percentage, it's the same, but the normal percentage is usually a lot lower, although technically for like Vet Guard it doesn't really change anything. Percentages are still the same for Vet Guard because it's 2 or 1 instead of 5 or 6, so I mean, whatever. The problem is auto retention. Because I don't think you can retain. No, retain would be retain a normal. So you would just get a normal anyway. So retention still works against their rule, I'm pretty sure. Unless the rule specifically says you can't retain. Alright. Give that a second to dry. I think we'll pre-do the big shield red. And we'll just hit it with a different fluorescent after. Take a look at the rules. Actually, we can take a look at the rules. That's right. I have a whole thing set up. Time is it? Do, 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 do. Where you at, Mandrakes? I hate that this isn't alphabetized. They really should just alphabetize the website one. Not just timing, just the actual straight up. Oh yeah, it's under M. Where are they? Ah, here we are. Mandrakes, Eldritch Nightmares. Now, Games Workshop recently started using the term Eldritch because it went, you know, universal. I have not played Blood Bowl. I've been watching, what is it, Hobby Collab. Look into Hobby Collab if you're looking at people playing Blood Bowl right now. They got into it, and they have a few battle reports. They actually did a season between all of them. Like, they ran, every single one of them had a team, and they just did like a small football season between each other, which is pretty cool. It looks cool. It does. But I play Underworlds, which is getting a reboot. I play Kill Team, which just got a reboot. I play 40k, which is in 10th. I'm still waiting on my big codex, which is Thousand Suns. I've looked into... Oh, I play AOS, which that also got a big reboot. So it's that situation of like, do I also play Blood Bowl? Do I need to play Blood Bowl? Like, what's the value in me playing Blood Bowl? That kind of stuff. Yeah, but this is a one boxer because you get 8 units, 9 total, 8 units, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So half of these 8 specialists, other half warriors. Recon and infiltration being their tac ops as well. That is insane. I think they're going to be able to easily score on all of this without much issue. Here's the insanity. So Soul Strike, any weapons that have Soul Strike. Successful defense dice are determined differently. Each result that's equal to or less than the target's APL stat is a success and is retained. Each result that's higher than the target's APL stat is a fail and discarded. Each result of 1 is always a crit. Each success is a normal. Each result of a 6 is always a fail. So when you're in cover, you retain normals. You don't retain the number. You retain normals. That's something to keep in mind with with Kill Team. Is retaining a dice as a normal just means you have. It's almost like a blank face. Like you don't need to think of the dice having numbers on it anymore. It's just considered a normal. But this makes elites problematic because it's 3, 2, 1, which is a bit worse than their normal save. Which is kind of cool. It turns them around on their head. Once returning point, one friendly Mandrake operative within Shadow can use Shadow Passage when it performs its reposition action. If it does, don't move it. Instead, remove it from the kill zone and set it back up within Shadow in a location it can be placed. It has to be within control range. When you set it up, it cannot be within control range. It has to be a valid... cannot be a valid target for an enemy operative, and it cannot perform the shoot or fight action until the next turning point. So this is... I think this used to be a command point function, but now I can just move them, which is kind of cool. I can just be like, nope, I'm outie. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Mandrake operative, ignore the piercing weapon roll. And this happens when you reposition. So you can technically, from a different position where you're seen, dash into the position of being in shadow, which we'll go over here, and then vanishing, which is kind of cool. Whenever an opponent, or whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Mandrake operative, ignore the pierce weapon roll. And this also doesn't require you to measure distance, which means this should go through walls in the Gallow Dark. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Mandrake operative, ignore piercing. So yeah, invulnerable saves. Whenever a friendly Mandrake operative is within shadow, improve its save stat by 1. I think that makes it a 4, right? Yeah, 4 pluses. As long as you're within an inch of heavy terrain that's not lower than it. Any part of its base underneath, any part of its base is underneath Vantage, or Shadow Portal is nearby. It's so easy to be within Shadow. I mean, the whole point of Blood Bowl is like, how do I kill my opponent's team? Like 9 times out of 10. There's only a few teams that are like, man, I really hope I roll well enough to not die. and that's about it. They've talked about it. The Hobby Collab guys talked about Blood Bowl, and it's interesting, but it also feels a little like kind of bland to a degree. Like, the rules make it feel like you just are meant to knock people over and knock them out, like the whole game. Like that's all you're supposed to be doing. Rarely are you going to find yourself in a situation where you're able to get like proper scoring. It's weird. Creeping Horror. When an enemy operative's activation before the next operative activation, you can perform a free dash. After each enemy... Oh, dude, that's crazy. After each enemy operative's activation before. So you get to just free dash, which means you can technically free dash maybe with the next guy, with one friendly. That has a conceal order if it starts and ends within shadow. You cannot use this ploy during the first turning point. Cannot select each friendly operative for this ploy more than once per... Yeah. So you can technically be like, all right, this guy's going to dash, then he's going to activate, and now he's going to like do his stuff. That's crazy. Yeah, like everyone, the meta of Blood Bowl seems pretty, like, everyone kind of knows it. And there's not enough variance or something. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Mandrake operative within shadow, you can retain one of your defense dice as normal without rolling it in addition. So this is just double cover, potentially. Or single cover from even flat angle. Each friendly Mandrake operative can perform a charge action while it has a conceal order. If it start, yeah, so a lot of within shadow function. Whenever friendly Mandrake operative is shooting, fighting, or retaliating, if it's within shadow, it can reroll one. So free, basically a free balanced rule if you're within shadow. Use the firefight ploy at the end of any operative's activation. Select one friendly Mandrake operative that has engage order within shadow, so you can just change it. The end of any operative's activation. So even the operative that did just go, but you can also do it later. That's kind of cool. Make someone think that they can get into a position to mess with you and then be like, nope. Use firefight ploy when a friendly Mandrake operative is shooting against, fighting against, retaliating against an enemy operative within 6 inches of it. At the end of the resolve attack dice step, the friendly operative regains a number of lost wounds equal to the operative's APL stat, multiplied by the number of your attack dice that inflicted damage during the sequence. Excess attack dice are ignored. Oh, holy crap. Use this when a Mandrake operative is shooting, fighting, or retaliating against an enemy operative within 6 inches of it. At the end of the... So you don't even have to kill it. The friendly operative regains a number of lost wounds equal to that enemy operative's APL. So it would be like 2 for like most things. But then multiplied by the number of attack dice that inflicted damage, which I imagine on most, for the most part, is either going to be 2 or 3. So it'll either be like 4 or 6 health back. That's crazy if you think about it. That's nuts. On average. It gets crazier against Space Marines. Nice. Is Dungeon Bowl still a thing? There's a box of it at my local store. They like tried to change the setting, but then I haven't heard people be like, yo, we're gonna do the Dungeon Bowl setting instead of the regular setting. So that Dungeon Bowl setting had like traps that would occur during the game. Operative can move through parts of the terrain features if they were not there. Must end its move location to be placed. Just fine. When it performs an action in which it moves, until the end of that activation, that operative can move through parts of terrain features. Can move through parts of terrain features, but the thing is, in Gallow Dark, you can't measure through walls, and this doesn't explicitly say Gallow Dark, so I don't think this will work in the Gallow Dark, but I'm pretty sure this does. Because this would require you to move through. Use the firefight ploy when an enemy operative performs the fight action during an activation in which it performs the charge action. Select friendly Mandrake operative within shadow to fight against. In the resolve attack dice step of the sequence, you can resolve. So this is strike first. That's not bad. That's really good, actually. You literally just have to stay near heavy terrain, which if you've looked at Vulcus, Vulcus is covered in heavy terrain. Vulcus is like all heavy terrain. And I'm into the dark. All the walls are heavy. I think I have one friend who plays Blood Bowl. He says there's a few people at the local store near him that do it. So maybe they have like a small league, which is cool. He's tried to talk me into playing it, but like, I mean, dude, I really just want to play Kill Team. Like so much. My local Warhammer store is all 40k. AOS is starting to pick up, which I like AOS. AOS's rules are really fun. But like, I need people to play Kill Team, man. It's so good. So let's look at this. I haven't even looked at the units yet. So this is the leader. Decent damage. Lethal 5. Shock, which is really good. Doesn't look like Shock's commonly used. So it's mostly just him. Soul Strike, of course, on ranged. No distance on the ranged, though. That's interesting. It's almost like they're a shooty army. 4 attacks on 3s is bolter gun. At 3-4, this is bolt gun, but with like... better. This is like a version of anti-armor against elites, which is kind of cool, actually. Whenever your opponents would activate an enemy operative within 6 inches of this operative, you can roll a d6. If the result is higher than enemy operative, they cannot act. Wait, whenever? Not once? You could drop this guy in the middle of his whole team and just be like, nope, 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 nope. Higher than the enemy operative's APL. Yeah, against freaking 2s? Are you kidding me? This guy could shut down a team. That's insane. Whenever this operative is readied, or if this operative incapacitates an enemy operative with its Husk Blade, its Oblex becomes active. Whenever its Oblex is active, an attack dice would inflict damage on this operative. You can roll 1d6 on 5+, ignore damage inflicted by that attack. So, you kill a guy and they get buffed, basically. Potentially on a 5+. You have to mark him with a buff that allows him to ignore a single dice. Is it whenever? Do I get to choose? Whenever, oh yeah, it's whenever its Oblex is active and attacked. So I have to just keep rolling based on dice, and the first time you get it, Oblex goes away. Whenever friendly man, that's like the ultimate feel no pain. Whenever a friendly Mandrake operative is shooting an enemy operative that has one of your Balefire tokens, add 1 to both damage stats of friendly operatives' ranged weapons. Read the Balefire. Select one operative visible to this operative that doesn't. Visible. This isn't targetable. This is visible. You just need to be able to draw a line from their head to any part of an enemy body. Until the start of this operative's next activation, incapacitated. So it just marks them with Balefire. That's cool. Good statting too. Lethal 5, 2 versions, full field too. Like blast 2. This is good damage, and this is actually a really good amount of attacks that hit +3. These guys are practically elite, but like APL 2, of course, is just gonna be an issue, and I don't know if there's a way to increase it. No, yeah, I saw the Xenoblade X remaster. Mandrake, chooser of flesh. He chews flesh. Wounds 8. Standard Eldari. 7-inch movement, though. This is huge, because all elves are 7-inch movement now. And a team like Mandrakes, 7-inch move is insane if you think about it. Because that's 9-inch charge for a very good melee team. Like Brutal Lethal 5 on a 5/6, 4 attacks. That's not bad. Whenever operatives capacity as a result, you gain 1 soul harvest point. Or 2 if that enemy operative has an APL stat of 3 or more. Whenever a friendly Mandrake operative is active, you can spend... Wait a second. As a result, Parts Collector roll of Battle Blade. You gain. This doesn't gain. You as the player gain soul harvest points. This is a secondary point system. And then whenever a friendly Mandrake operative is activated, you can spend 1 of those points to either add... Oh, here's how you get your APL. Or healing. 2d3 lost wounds. So if you really need APL. So from what I'm telling so far with this team is your warriors go in. They're supposed to just beat everyone up slightly, right? That's their whole point, is to just go in, beat everyone up slightly. And then this guy, your elites go in like after and start finishing them off, basically. Ooh, a Gambit. Horrifying Scream. Oh my god. 5 on a 2+. 2/2, which is bottom tier flamer. But range 6, dev 2, seek light, stun, and soul strike. I guess because it's not torrent. That's, yeah. If it was torrent, that would be insane. This guy would be top tier in the frickin' Gallow Dark. Glimmer Steel Blade. Select one enemy operative until the next step of the strategy phase. It gains your Haunting Focus. Next time the opponent activates an enemy operative that has a Haunting Focus token, if this operative is ready, you can interrupt that activation and activate this. What? This is a pseudo 2GA. That's cool. If you do during that activation, the operative must fight against or shoot against that enemy operative and cannot do so against any other enemy operative. If this isn't possible, the operative is activated. Oh, so you have to be in a situation where you could play out a fight or a shoot. Okay. Within 1 enemy operative that's about Select one enemy operative that's a valid target for this operative or within shadow. Select one enemy operative that's a valid target for this operative or is within shadow. So an enemy can be within shadow. Until the start of this operative's next activation, until it's incapacitated, or until it performs that action, whichever is first. Worsen the hit stat of that enemy operative's weapons by 1 and subtract 2 from its move. Ooh, it's like an injury state. It doesn't say injured. It's just the thing. So people who can ignore injury can't ignore this. Yeah, that's crazy. Here's the big guy. Whenever this operative performs the reposition action, use a shadow passage. You can use this rule if you do remove the shadow portal mark. Oh, this guy's one of the shadow portal makers? Using a shadow passage. You can use this rule. If you do, remove your shadow portal marker from the kill zone. Then place one of your shadow portal markers within this... Place one of your shadow portal markers within this operative's control range before it's removed. So he leaves behind within shadow areas. Each friendly Mandrake operative can use a shadow passage. Each turning point takes precedence. One of your shadow portal markers is within that operative's control range when it's removed. And the other, note that friendly operatives can do so even if the operative has been incapacitated. Remove the weak darkness mark from kill zone. They place weak darkness mark to this operative or on vantage. Visible to this operative or on vantage terrain of a terrain feature visible. So you don't actually have to see the surface. You just need to see the terrain that the vantage is part of. Okay, that marker creates an area of smoke. Ooh. With the effects of smoke grenade. Ooh, he just has a freaking 1 AP specialized smoke grenade. That's even further range than a freaking smoke grenade. That's cool. Whenever this operative is within shadow, add 1 to the crit damage stat of the Glimmer Steel. Chain Snare. When an enemy operative would perform a fallback action while within control range of a friendly Mandrake operative, if no other enemy operatives are within the friendly operative's control range, you can use this rule. If you do, roll 2d6 or 1d6. If that enemy operative has a higher wound stat than the friend... If 1d6 or 1d6, if that... 2d6 or 1d6 if it has a higher wound stat than the friendly. If any result is a 4+, then... so this is just anti... Oh, no AP is spent. I always hate that. I get it, but I hate it. I always wish like someone could be like, all right, I'm falling back. And you're like, okay, cool. And then you roll the 4+, and they technically fall back, kind of, but then they don't move. God, that'd be so cool. Once per turning point, when a friendly Mandrake operative is activated within shadow, you can use this rule. If you do, until the start of its next activation, while that operative has a concealer in its cover, it cannot be selected as a valid target. So this is super conceal. Once per turning point. So you have to select a Mandrake you activate, and then you're basically applying super conceal to it as you then send it onto the field somewhere. Once per turning point, when a friendly Mandrake operative is performing the shoot action and you select a Bale Blast, you can use this rule. If you do... I could see this being cool into like super horde teams. So far, the big one for me, I think, would be Shadow Glyph. Like, this isn't that important against most people. Maybe against, like, some of the Horde teams that have 0% melee, I could see this. Maybe, like, teams like the Hearthkin, where you would want to get in on them and then not let them back out. Because if they back out, then you got, like, a rocket launcher nearby that can just kill you or something. Don't want that. Once per turning point, a friendly Mandrake. Maybe people who have less health than you is the big thing, too. If you have people who you can easily get below 8 health. Once per turning point, a friendly Mandrake operative can use this ranged weapon. Once per turning point. I kind of like this. It is rending, but it doesn't have the soul strike. And it's kind of a super weak bolt gun. And it's only once per turning point. The issue is range 6. These guys really don't have a lot of equipment that makes me happy. This could be cool. This is cool in close quarters. Because even if the blast 1 doesn't really help you, this becomes lethal 5 as well. But this, I think Shadow Glyph is like the big one that you'd probably always use. That's kind of cool. Well, let's get back to it. They seem like an interesting enough team. I think they could do well. The leader definitely sounds like his whole point is to try to get into combat. Because the assassinate mission doesn't really exist anymore, I feel like the leader is a bit better off because he does need to play close. And if you're going to lose him in like turn 2, honestly, it doesn't feel like that big of a deal. Because he's not really bringing to the table anything that makes me go like, oh, I'd hate to lose that guy. But I guess key things are going to be to figure out when to use the specialists. Because it doesn't really sound like too many specialists are, I guess, expendable would be the word. Like this guy with the portals, very much not expendable. He's the only one that can access like the big portals, which create area effect in shadow ability, which increases their armor saves. So technically, moving this person early, using this rule to create kind of like a sort of like a small area effect AoE of in shadow, to then just have other units be able to stand near for their bonus armor saves and stuff, could be very useful. And then the two-handed sword guy. That's probably going to be the trick. By turn 2, you need to set stuff up for the two-handed sword guy to do work. Like, he needs to get some kills out there to gain some tokens for the plus APL and the healing and all that. Definitely a huge positioning team, but they do have the positioning advantage of 7-inch move. That is such a devastating concept. Of like, well, I'm out of your charge range, but you're not out of mine. By the way, this is fluorescent paint, so it will glow under the benefit of black light. Careful right here. It does get really close to the skirt. Yeah, we're going to try to base coat this. I think everything else is kind of fine. Don't really need to base coat them. But this in particular needed it just because of like how weirdly shaped it is around the model. To get it like prepped for where it's going to go. Are you saying space battleship Yamato, or are you just talking Yamato? Is this like an actual battleship model? Because I know there's a lot of people who like the full-blown battleship models. All right, let me take a look at my stew that I'm making. Let me grab some saran wrap, and then we are going to get back into the airbrush work. We need to make these weapons kind of glow. And I still trying to think of what we're going to do for that. perfect timing, chat. I went over there with 3 minutes on the clock, and I put the chicken in. Reset. Oh, it smells so good in my room right now. Friggin' S&B golden curry, baby. Oh, my headphones. No. Okay. So I gotta figure out from the fluorescence that I have what colors we want to do. I kind of want the red to be a bit unique. I know the bodies are going to be within the teal spectrum and the blue spectrum, so maybe green, because rather than it being... Oh, no, I don't know, man. It's Halloween. I'm feeling orange. I'm feeling orange, and I'm feeling a secondary color of pink. Because if we go orange explicitly over like this, and then kind of go in with pink maybe, or maybe purple. Maybe magenta. Dude, oh my god. So I've been looking around online to try to find a quick curry recipe for crock pots, because like I just want to throw it all in and like stew it for a bit. And I've been having problems because every single time I look at one, they're like, yeah, you're going to want to, you know, pan fry the chicken. And it's like, okay, yeah. Those are probably insanely good tasting. I'm not going to deny them that. But I don't have that time. I just want to like throw it all in and then let it go. And then I found one that was like, yeah, you just, you know, 4 potatoes, 7 carrots, a whole onion, some chicken broth, 4 of like the S&B seasoning curry bricks, some salt, 3 hours. And then when those 3 hours are done, put the chicken in, 1.5 hours on high. 4 chicken breasts. When that's done, pull the chicken breasts out, rip them up, put it back in, just let it stew a little bit longer. You're good. I was like, oh my god. My room right now smells so stupidly good. Yeah, but which kind of curry? Seth curry? No. Alright, here we go. I think we start with orange. Okay. We're going to 3-stage this. Let's do it right from the get-go. We start with fluorescent chartreuse. I always love fluorescent chartreuse for this. And I've seen a lot of people who are like starting to get into painting like flame and stuff. They've been doing it with like fluorescent chartreuse as like a baseline. So I want the end of the swords to be kind of the chartreuse. Cool. Now the trick is their hands. This is where this, I think, comes in. Because I need to make sure, at the very least, it doesn't hit their... although maybe it doesn't matter as much. Because it is a glowing effect. So whatever hits this would feel... It's almost OSL-ish, but I do need to be careful about how it places. Yeah, see, like it got a little bit on it, but I'm okay with like a little. Maybe just like a touch. I don't want it to be too distracting though. Dude, I love Japanese curry. I've had a... What was it? I think it was... I'm trying to remember. The lady that runs the sushi burrito place near me. She does, like, authentic cooking. I'm just trying to remember where she's from. Yeah, see. Definitely needed to do that. It would have made the, would have brightened up the pants too much. I might need more of this, too. If I'm being real, I gotta wipe it off a little bit. She made curry from, like, her region. And it was different. Like, the curry from her region was, like, all about the spice. Like, the pepper. Her curry was nasal passage clearing. It was good. I loved it. But, like, the moment I ate it, I was like, ah! It was just, like, straight pain. Need to make sure it doesn't pull up too much. Masking tape is good because, like, you'll be able to cut it in ways where you can guarantee what actually gets hit and what doesn't. This is kind of a quick and dirty method I started using not long ago. The process we're using here allows for it to, like, not be a problem. Because the parts on the body it's hitting right now don't really matter for the process, if that makes sense. Like, the main thing on this body that I don't want the glow to touch is the skirt. And I'm going to keep calling it a skirt because that's what it is. I don't want it to touch the skirt. I'm completely fine with it touching the hair and the flesh because those are getting painted over top of. But there is potential with the skirt, though. Like, look at this. I need to be very careful. Just to hit a little bit, right? Just to give it a little bit of glow. Kind of in certain spots. I don't want it to be overwhelming, is the key issue. I want, like, a little bit. Because with my OSL, and I mean, I'll be the first to say it, I get too aggressive with how the light is supposed to work. And it kind of belittles the areas on the model that I do actually 100% want to be bright. There we go. So, like, yeah, I would prefer not to hit the skirt with, like, all of the colors we're going to apply. A little bit of yellow is fine for just being like, oh, yeah, there's a little bit of light hitting it. But we're going to be going back in with, like, orange. And then magenta. And I would rather just not, like, Fruity Pebbles up the stuff I've already done. Like, I've done masking. I've done the tape masking to, like, certain things. Just not everything. But, like, consider all the yellow that's on the side of it right there. That would have been on his model. But now I can actually kind of control it a little. think this is the leader, right? Pretty sure this is the leader. He's like the only one that's got the semi-weird looking knife. Alright. This one's a bit more explicit as to me not wanting the yellow on things. Next up, orange. Halloween Spirit. Chartreuse is always a good starting spot for like gradiated fluorescence. It's probably one of like the brightest spots it can possibly begin from, which is good. Oofda. The handle on this thing is so close to the actual body. Just need to get a little bit past it. There we go. The true benefit of the saran wrap is that it's hyper thin. I kind of wish I had like 2 airbrushes set and ready to go. Because then I could just do that and then do the magenta immediately after. But we'll have to make a second lap. So far, so good across the board. It's 4:19. I got about an hour before, well, probably an hour and a half before eating. I kind of want to try to get at least one of these guys like fully complete so that you guys can see kind of the idea that I have with them. This might be a hard one. There we go. I feel like with glue, saran wrap actually does some cool like cloth effects. Like, could you imagine getting like a nice glue? Oh, hang on, phone call. All right, there we go. Back at it. But like, I feel like with a little bit of glue, you could almost make like really cool capes and stuff. There's got to be a method with saran wrap to do this. I wonder if you get like a small like mannequin or something, like similar in scale. Wonder if you can just like set it up. And sort of drape really cool looking capes off of them and then just glue it somehow with like a spray glue or some kind of hardener. I guess the best method would be to really get some green stuff flattened. Like just really flattened. And then put it on top of saran wrap. And have the saran wrap kind of position sort of how you would want a cape. Ooh. This one's gonna be rough. I'm probably gonna want to saran wrap this and then hold it like with the saran wrap after we get the orange down, because then we're gonna switch to the magenta. Alright. Magenta time. Always love some magenta, man. Magenta top tier. Here we go. Just a little bit of discoloring. In theory, I could almost be okay with where it is right now. Like, for the concept of, like, rapid painting for Warhammer, at this point, you'd probably try to think of, like, a cheap and cheerful way to do a base. Like, to color the base a little bit. Or even just not. And then just go with, like, the OSL on the semi-gray hair and stuff. But this is not where I choose to end it. I mean, it's really nice looking. Let me try and hit you guys with the gradient. Like, it's nice. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty nice. But it's a start. I still like the idea of making their bodies brass statues. It sort of makes them look like things you'd have in a throne room, where in like any fantasy novel with magic, the whole premise would be like, oh, those are crazy looking. Hopefully they don't come to life and try and kill us. You know, and then they steal something. All of a sudden, fire comes billowing off the statue. And it starts moving around as the molten brass just comes to life. I think that's kind of the gist here, which I like. Question is whether or not I should wait to do their basing until I get more squeeze bottles. The idea is I do think I need to take the clear tar gel, the resin type pouring medium. It's like non-resin resin. I think I need to get, if I can find it, I should have one other squeeze bottle. And I can probably just mix 2 pigments, like 2 mica powder pigments into it. Made it to the end of the music. Yeah. Yeah. Do a little bit more to this one. I also grabbed some aluminum foil just in case. Aluminum foil, I feel, is like a little bit better at being like controllable. Key thing is that I kind of want to just, I want to hit this arm. I don't want it to go below. There we go. hard one to weave the saran wrap under. There we go. Boom! All right. Kind of want to try to get to endgame for the general painting on at least one of these guys. This does look cool on its own right now. Like, I could easily be like, and we're done. Because it's basically like their upper bodies are kind of like a gray tone. And they're still, they look very shadowy, we'll say. Which, I mean, that's Mandrakes, right? That's what you want. But for me, we've got a little bit to go. At least to get them to a baseline just before minor details. Let me decompress. 3, 2, 1. Pull the water cork. Beautiful. Okay, so the plan was Sybarite. Which is a very dark LR color. I mean, we can't deny that. Some would even say the most Dark Eldarish of all Dark Eldar colors. But the gist, for me, let me grab a good one that we can work on. So we need to do almost the entirety of the skin tones with this as flats. We need to kind of blend it into where the hands are because of the whole lighting thing. Kind of use some of the OSL. We pull some of it back, but we don't need all of it. Also, we do need to push the hair. I like the OSL on the hair, but I think the hair does need to stand out a bit. will say that the magenta or the teal skin does look really good on its own, but that, again, that's not the goal here. Hang on, what are you saying? Are you saying it doesn't... Ammo cache equipment raw doesn't mention having to be within control range of the marker. That doesn't sound right, because I believe the action in the red section says something, but let me double check. One of your ammo cache markers, the active operative controls, is used during this turning point for 0 AP. So you have to control that ammo cache. That's like the first bullet point. And you can't control something by not being near it? No, yeah. Alright, so let's try this. I just bought this iridescent bronze today for this very purpose. It's always good to have more than one set of eyes on rules, because you'll find that occasionally you'll miss things. Because you'll start reading something and then your brain will go, oh, that's how that works. And you'll kind of like miss like a term here or there. And sometimes you just need like a person to be like, hey, just so you know, there's this. And you're like, oh, all right. I understand now. So the goal is to take this iridescent brass and almost kind of lightly dry brush it on to allow the undertone teal to still kind of exist. It happens. Boom. General brass statue look. Oh, that's right. I completely forgot. They wear like those weird kind of pants that shows their hips for some reason. Let that dry for a little bit. A little bit of metallic. The thing I want to do though right now is the hair. Which is Battleship Gray. Airbrush really pushes things, man. Like the airbrush makes things like exactly what they need to be. If you know how to do it based on like angles and stuff. Don't like that one. We'll have to do a different metallic. Battleship Gray for a slight blue shadow you can tinker with. Not blue enough. There should be, I think, a coral in here. Yeah, pastel seafoam. We're gonna go pastel seafoam. The drop is for free. You do lose 2 to the overall, like, what distance you have once you get within range of it. And yeah, it's basically 2 to climb once you're within an inch of it, and then you just have to go over top of it. It makes it near impossible to pass with, like, 5-inch movement teams. Fast LC phone. It's just the most subtle blue you could add to a white. It makes it look so decent. The next one is probably going to be an overview for the deathcore. I'm trying to think of other things we can do as well. Like just pure strategy videos or something. I do think I need to get back into battle reports because I feel like battle reports show people rules in motion enough to make them go like, oh, okay. You know, like there's purpose in watching it. Especially if it's teams you like, but even then, if it's teams where you're like, I might go up against them, it's also worth it to see, like, maneuvers and such that they might try to make. It's, like, very important. Iridescent brass. I kind of want to do it, but, like, I don't know. I try to bring up in some of the videos that I've been making, like, hey, I know a lot of people are saying elites are really rough, but let me tell you how this team could probably deal with it. I also want to, like, look a bit more into, I guess, general games that people have run against. Let me do the string, yeah. Against different, like, teams. Actually, I want to do a purple. No, yeah, we did, but the problem is that New York Open didn't have enough teams, I think. Like, if you look at the whole list, as far as I can tell, it's the whole list. It's like 80% elites. Which feels like the sociological response to everyone online going, elites are broken, elites are broken. It's like, oh, well, that means the next tournament we have is going to be like 80% elites. But then, like, I think Blooded were up there. Hearthkin did pretty good at like number 2, and like everyone points to Hearthkin as like the, oh, you would never play that team's terrible. Oh, they just took number 2, maybe you're just bad at the game. Kind of situation. Well, definitely one of the core things is that you have to have your highest threat output. Most teams seem to have at least one high threat output for playing into elites. Like Meltaguns in particular is probably one of the highest threat outputs. But I think the key strategy is probably just how do you tie up the elite team, right? Like, how do you tie up their units that matter most with things you don't care about while still achieving your goals? No, yeah, novitiates. I feel like novitiates still have the no, you can't shoot at me function, right? Like, they still have that. And I think that played heavily into their victories, is just the ability to go, no, you don't get to shoot at me. There's definitely counterplay, and it's always been this way, man. Like, every iteration of Kill Team, every new team that's come out, all of it, it's consistently been internet goes crazy, talks about how imbalanced the game is, tournament comes out, imbalanced team barely gets into the top 3. I just wish New York Open had a lot more teams, like, represented. Because I feel like we didn't get a good enough listing. Because, like, I think there was one Kasserkin player, and he lost, like, completely. Like, he was bottom of the box. Lost every single match. But, like, I don't know if that's a good representation of the Kasserkin. Like, maybe it is. I don't know. Let me try in this last moment to make the basing material I was talking about. If I can find the bottle, I should have one more squeeze bottle. Where the hell I put it. And then mica powder. Did I throw it away? I shouldn't have thrown it away. Okay, I might have thrown it away. No. Unless it's in this drawer. I don't want to do it if I don't have this, because the plan is in my head and I think it works. I just need a proper squeeze bottle. So the idea is I have something called clear tar gel. I'm pretty sure I still have clear tar gel. Where the hell did it go? Two coarse pumices, two crackles. There it is. Clear tar gel. Clear tar gel, it basically goes on almost see-through. It's very much like a resin pour. You mix it with stuff. The idea is that we mix it with neon powder. That way, instead of it being a color, it's kind of like a pigment suspended in a clear gel, which we then apply to the base with maybe like two different powders in it to give it like a flurry effect. And then you can, with like a needle, you can try to like pull in the directions you want the general effect to kind of go, I guess, is the way I would put it. That way it's almost like an explosion of like cosmic energy under their feet. So I think it could look cool with these shadowy creatures made of brass. I like them though. I gotta get dinner here in a second. So I gotta finish up this curry that I made. I gotta shred the chicken and get it back in there. Ooh, this needs a little bit more red. I haven't necessarily heard of it. It's something I've come to as a conclusion because I've seen some stuff. My whole thing is there's this this Nurgle color scheme that I found a while ago. Right? And the thing I like about it is that the base on it, like the basing material, feels very like it feels almost like toxic chemicals, but when you look at it, it doesn't have like a smooth color to it, which is what you get when you normally mix basing material and stuff like that with like texture pastes and mediums. But then the pasting they did, I wonder if I can pull it up for you guys. Hang on. Before we go, let me see if I can get it on a big screen. Death Guard Toxic Images. Okay, let's see. This is a decently high resolution image. Okay. Full screen. And here you go. So if you look really closely at that, that does not look like a blend of color. You can see that there's this goo, right? Which makes me believe, to a degree, like, I don't know how they did this, honestly. Because it's very clear that this is the flat surface. It doesn't look like there's a lot of... Like, you would think maybe like like, what is it, cork, and then you shave the cork away, and then you just hit it with like some brown to mid green to light green, and then that's it. And then you resin pour over top of it. This does not feel like a resin pour though, because then when you get up here, it's obviously a texture. Maybe that is how they did it. Maybe they did like a really thin texture, colored it with spray paint in the way that I'm talking about, and then hit it with resin. Because this is a shine. This means there's like some kind of like gluey liquid down as a thin layer over top of whatever this is. But this feels like almost pigment. Like you can see like the very clear circular function to it. Like, I don't know. It's inspired me to try this with my Mandrakes with the clear resin pour, which isn't actually resin, it's a medium. It dries really thin and clear. And we based the whole thing in like a really deep dark blue, but then I pick maybe like, I don't know, we gotta pick colors, like a yellow or a purple, maybe both. We can do like contrasting colors. We don't need to do like this green, dark green to light green function. We could do like two cosmic colors, like a purple and, I mean, the main character is like blue-ish. I don't want it to really match the weapons. So purple would be probably one of my main picks. I think we could get away with like a cosmic blue, like a really nice bright teal blue. And then we just put them as particle, because mica powder is basically stone sharding. It's like glitter, but not really. And it shouldn't blend. Like it shouldn't blend into the thing. Like putting them both into the gel shouldn't turn it into a whole new color. It should keep the individual colors. They'll just be mixed in. So that way when I put it down and spread it out underneath the characters, it's almost like a starburst effect should be involved. But that's going to have to be for later, because I guess I threw away my squeeze bottles, which makes me sad. Either way, I got curry that I got to finish up, and it'll be done. And then I'll have curry for like 4 days, because holy crap. There's so much food. I get to eating that, get to cleaning my room up a bit, and maybe tomorrow we'll come back. Maybe. Thursday. Probably more Thursday. I really need to try to hunker down tomorrow and get this video done. But yeah, we'll see what we can do about this. I think I understand this better, because I do think this is a texture paste that is painted over top of with like an airbrush approach and then resin poured over top of, but I don't know. And the characters are definitely glued down before the resin goes down, because there's obviously liquid on this guy's foot. But yeah, this is like the I want to paint an entire army, but I don't want to spend time paint scheme, which I love. I love doing stuff like this. Just try to get them done. But thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chilling. Thanks for talking. Till next time, guys.